This worksheet represents glucose uptake into a muscle cell that is stimulated by the hormone insulin. So on the top of this worksheet, there's higher insulin in the blood, and insulin will bind to a receptor on the surface of the muscle cell, so on the membrane of this muscle cell. The binding of insulin plus the receptor, that stimulates the translocation, which is the movement of the GLUT4 protein. So this figure is my representation of the GLUT4 protein. That GLUT4 protein gets moved or translocated from the middle of the cell to the cell membrane. So this dashed arrow represents GLUT4 translocation. So now this GLUT4 protein, which is a channel, it's a door, it is now on the cell's surface, so glucose can rush or come inside this cell. And so I've represented that over here on the left, where glucose now comes into the muscle cell. And so this would be where the GLUT4 protein, I guess, would be. And glucose can come in. Step one of this process is glucose is phosphorylated. So glucose plus inorganic phosphate would then equal glucose 6-phosphate. So now we have glucose 6-phosphate in this cell, and then we can decide what we want to do. If this is recovery from exercise, glucose 6-phosphate will go up the arrow, at least the way I've drawn it, and it will be stored in the muscle cell as glycogen. So you know that the storage form of glucose is glycogen. Or if we need energy, and if we need energy right away, this glucose 6-phosphate will be broken down in the process of glycolysis. And so that process will break this glucose down into the end products of glycolysis, are 2 molecules of lactate, a net of 2 ATPs, and 2 of the NADH molecules that can get recycled to, or depending on conditions, can go into the mitochondria. This process of GLUT4 translocation is described in our textbook, at the end of our textbook in chapter 12. So here it describes GLUT4 transporters, so they can transport glucose into the cell. And it's interesting that the intracellular signal for this GLUT4 translocation is calcium. And calcium is an important product for muscle contraction, and it's also an important product for getting glucose into the cell. So this worksheet describes glucose uptake in a muscle cell that is stimulated by insulin.